Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So first up, we get Kelley Blue Book's 5-year cost to own awards for 2023. Personally, I don't find these super useful because there is a lack of transparency for how they're arriving at these awards. They just say they use a sophisticated valuation methodology along with critical financial data from third-party providers. Either way, to pass the information along for the third year in a row, Toyota and its luxury sibling Lexus take home the top brand prizes. Looking at the awards by vehicle category, as you can see for electric car and SUV, the Chevy Bolt took home both of those categories with the EV and EUV respectively, but that should be ending production this year. Then Tesla wins 2 awards with the Model 3 for the best 5-year cost to own luxury electric car and the Model Y for the luxury electric SUV. I think this is great to encourage more consumers to think from a total cost of ownership standpoint rather than just the sticker price. But as we know, at the end of the day, your actual cost of ownership will vary greatly depending on your geography and your use case, etc. From the Hertz Q1 earnings call, we learned that they have 50,000 EVs in the fleet at the end of Q1, which makes up about 10% of the total car fleet right now. That number, of course, expected to increase as they're expecting around 100,000 just from Tesla in time. Hertz, of course, won't be in the camp complaining about Tesla's price cuts as they are benefiting from this. They're also predicting 2 million EV rentals this year, which would be 5 times more than last year. That said, I think it's worth pointing out if you actually do some math, it looks like Hertz bought more ICE vehicles in Q1 than EVs. In Q4 of last year, EVs made up 11% of its overall fleet, and as we just said, in Q1 it's down to 10%, but the overall fleet did actually grow. It's a small change, of course, but absolutely something to watch because if everything really was as great with EV rentals as Hertz has said publicly, and with the Tesla price cuts early in Q1, why are we seeing this? I don't know. Tesla has a new landing page on the website. Now it's clearly this video where you can experience a Tesla and schedule a demo drive where previously you would land on the Model Y with a button to order one. Speaking of the Model Y, the 7-seat configuration has been dropped $1,000 in price to $3,000 now. Honestly though, this was previously the price before the price increase, so we're really just back to where we started. We have Morgan Stanley putting out Tesla stock notes about as frequently as the New York Times tweets. A few themes to watch. They're expecting a 45% year-over-year increase in China's net vehicle exports this year. Why? Because the local competition in the domestic market is heating up and showing signs of early saturation. And we've been saying it for weeks, but watching how aggressively these Chinese companies look to expand into Europe and most likely eventually North America is a huge question. Using data from S&P Global, they're expecting that Chinese automotive imports into the EU may account for 20% of all EU imports by the end of this year, which would be up from less than just 1% 5 years ago. So this trend really is happening. Their simple takeaway is that the biggest loser from this trend could be the EU domestic car brands that maybe won't be able to compete on price like companies like Tesla and these domestic Chinese companies. The price wars in the Chinese market have been talked about ad nauseum, but now that market is seemingly going to be exported into the European market. So those lower prices are really going to start to squeeze some of the competition in the European market. Why do these Chinese companies have such a cost advantage? Well, 1, cheaper labor, and 2, the battery supply chain. They're right there, directly located in the heart of it, and it's already at a massive scale. Simple takeaway though, they have yet to see another OEM that can truly rival Tesla with an EV that offers current, attractive unit economics. Not a Tesla app is now reporting due to some updates in the Tesla owner's manual that automatic emergency braking will now actually function, albeit limited, in reverse. They've also increased the operational speed range. Previously, it was from 3 miles per hour to 90 miles per hour, but that cap has actually been increased to up to 124 miles per hour. AEB over 100 miles per hour would definitely be an experience. You may recall those comments from Jim Farley on Tesla about how the price cuts should be expected. It's really nothing new. But Farley went further and gave Elon and Tesla some advice, saying, I think what Elon's going to learn is product freshness means a lot. The product gets commoditized and then you lose your pricing premium. That's a really dangerous thing. And he went on to talk about how Ford did this way back with the Model T. Honestly, I think this will always be a debate around Tesla. Is their fleet outdated? Do they need to do more from a product refresh or a cycling scenario? We've heard a lot about this chatter in China, how the consumers there really expect this from the Chinese brands, and that may be hurting Tesla to some degree in that market. Part of the problem is those of us that follow Tesla very closely know that almost weekly they're actually refreshing something in the vehicles. Maybe it's not always an exterior change, but they're constantly updating the cars. The problem is most of the general public has no idea. They think the Model 3 that was unveiled in 2017 is the exact same car now 5 years later, but we know that's not the case. Look, I understand what Farley was getting at with the comment, but if you look at the word commoditize in the truest definition of the word, which really just means that that product becomes identical to other offerings in the same class, that very clearly is not at all the case with Tesla, because no competitors are offering products like Tesla at these lower prices. And to me, it just seems obvious that any company choosing to try to maintain these pricing premiums is going to come out of this recession with a much smaller market share. So yeah, if you're focused on the short term, the next 6 to 12 months, maybe that's the best strategy, especially for financials. But if we're thinking longer term and brand awareness and all of those things, then it's very clearly Tesla's strategy that would be the winner in my book. Billy C did another great video of a Tesla ad. I don't want to play it due to copyright issues, but I will include a link below if you happen to have not seen it yet. I've showed you guys this before, Hyundai's crab walk. It's really kind of surreal to watch. Do I ever think we see this in production? I would say it's unlikely at best. But the crab walk paired with things like diagonal driving for when you're passing somebody in these situations, it's definitely a cool feature, but again, probably way too complex and don't expect to see it. One other thing to watch is this leasing loophole with the IRA. It seems to be widening with each passing day, allowing consumers to bypass all of the income caps and the MSRP caps and the battery sourcing and component requirement caps with the traditional IRA credits. As I've said before, the big question is, will these automakers now pass along the $7,500 credits and basically filter them into the lease rates, or will they keep it for themselves? The CEO of Ford Credit just said he expects 60% of EV drivers in the US to lease in the short term instead of buying, which is 3 times more than the 20% lease rate of ICE cars. This, of course, is a huge deal for all of the automakers not currently making their vehicles in North America that were excluded from the traditional tax credits. Well, this leasing loophole now gives them an option. And Ford Credit is going to be a big supporter of leasing. And we're already seeing this play out. Look at this, 28% of Hyundai's EVs were leased in Q1, up from just 5% in 2022. In the United States in March, the lease rate went up to 34% from 18% just 1 year ago. With the $7,500 leasing credit, you effectively get that payment now in terms of a lower monthly payment rather than waiting to recoup it at tax time. Polestar North America's CEO said they're already seeing an increase in leasing rates for the Polestar 2, and he attributed it to a very competitive 36-month lease that does include the $7,500 commercial clean vehicle tax credit. Some companies are definitely advertising this commercial tax credit as part of their leases, but as far as I can tell, Tesla has been fairly quiet on how they're handling this. Did you guys see this Sentry Cam footage where this guy basically poured gasoline on a Tesla and then lit the car on fire? Well, sadly stuff like this happens, but the worst part about this was before this footage was released, the Spokane Police Department told the owner of that Tesla that EVs just tend to catch on fire. Completely absurd. Don't forget, tonight on HBO, Elon will be talking with Bill Maher if you're interested. You may remember I mentioned this pure watercraft company a few months back. Well, they've finalized their production design. The motors are going to be powered by a 66 kilowatt hour pack using the same batteries that were used in the Chevy Bolt. They're saying you can expect over 40 miles of range and at least 7 hours out on the water. This electric pontoon boat uses a standard J1772 plug and will be built at a facility in West Virginia. The boat starts at $75,000 for a single motor variant and $95,000 for a twin motor. Don't forget, keep an eye out for that interview dropping this weekend. I'm leaning toward a Sunday morning upload. You can find me on Twitter at DylanLoomis22. Hope you guys have a wonderful and a safe weekend. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.